Recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Crossman.
Here.
Councilmember Kangiser. Here. Councilmember Hess.
It's online. Councilmember Hess, can you hear us?
Sorry, I had a hard time getting my unmuted button.
Councilmember Palmer. Councilmember Kaminsky. Here. Mayor DePinto.
Here. Can we get an agenda approval? Councilor Kaminsky.
Mayor, I make a motion to amend the agenda and add an executive session for the consideration of site selection or acquisition of real estate.
Is there a second? The motion second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to special presentations, or excuse me, now that we have an amended agenda, Councilor Wood, Palmer, we have amended the agenda with a 4-0, or excuse me, 5-0 vote to have an executive session regarding property acquisition. Okay, so that's the only thing added to the agenda. Now that we have an amended agenda, can we get the amended agenda approval? Is there a motion? Councilor Kaminsky?
To approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second comment to Councilmember Kangiser. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. I'm slowing it down a little on the vote just to give Councilmember Hess a chance. All right, now that we have an agenda, we have a special presentation tonight regarding the Roten Road update. Is this you, Pat?
I can, please. All right. And this is going to be a very short presentation. I guess that's why I was telling Sonia, I said that may be why it's called a special presentation, because it's so short. Because I don't have a lot of information yet. So what I want to do is just kind of give you a high level explanation of what the project is going to entail. This will be our next major transportation project, you know, after the start of the Yelm Loop and of the new roundabout at Five Corners. This project will be about a mile in length. We're planning on reconstructing Roten Road about a mile in length. What we're looking at doing right now is widening the road to two 10-foot paved lanes with curb and gutter, adding a new sidewalk along the west side of the road, an 8-foot wide shared use path along the east side of the road. And that shared use path will connect to the new trail that's coming as part of the Yelm Loop project. And it will connect at the south end to our existing trailhead at Roten Road and Railway. So where we are on the project right now, we've drafted a letter or an advertisement for consultants. It's being reviewed right now by WSDOT local programs. As soon as we get approval for that advertisement, we will get it in the paper and get a consultant on board, and we'll be bringing that to you too for approval once that happens. The next step after that is to begin the preliminary design and then move into the right-of-way acquisition phase. There's a little bit of right-of-way we're going to need for this project. There's a few areas along the southern part of the project where we're going to need another 5 to 10 feet of right-of-way. Not significant, but nonetheless, the right-of-way phase does take some time. So your next question is probably on timing. I'm right now looking at moving into the, to finish the preliminary design and the right-of-way phase, probably about this time next year. We would then be looking at a spring of 26 construction. I have financing already set for the preliminary engineering phase. We received an $850,000 grant for federal transportation funds. The best part about these transportation funds, if there's anything good about transportation funds, is that there will be no match. This will be a 100% funded through the federal grant. So we're hoping to get through the the preliminary design and the right-of-way phase using these funds. But we're still seeking construction money for the actual construction, so to be determined. So that's just kind of a high-level view of where the project is at and what we're going to be doing. I don't know, anybody have any questions about it at this point?
Yeah, Alderman Kaminsky.
Will they be able to do anything to straighten out the pavement on the road where the roots from the trees are making it really bumpy?
Yeah, actually, we are reconstructing the road. We are actually going to be just completely removing and replacing that road, which will be removing the roots. Perhaps it looks like some of those trees, those large fir trees along the east side of the road, because we just don't have enough room to fit in our road, shared use path, sidewalk within a 60-foot right of way. So we'll more than likely, but yes, we will be removing those.
Councilmember Wood?
Who are the trees you're talking about, Pat? Who owns those trees?
Well, right now, that particular section of the road, it's in the county right of way, but that belongs to the county. About halfway through the project, the jurisdiction changes from the city of Yelm to Thurston County. We would be looking at annexing that piece of road so that it would be with our project. There is some discussion about some larger annexation for the city, and if so, that would be part of it. So we would have to acquire that.
So the trees are at this point are on government land, whether that's ours or the county's. It's not going to be an issue for the property owners along.
That is correct. If, you know, until I get a survey done, till I know where the actual property line lies, they may be right on the line. If they are, you know, we'll be having to get some construction easements and things like that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Pat. All right, moving on to public comment. If you want to go ahead and address the council myself, please fill out one of these forms, a little blue card, get up to us, we'll get it going. But right now we have one, Bob DeRosa.
Thank
There's
you.
a 3-minute time limit.
3 minutes? Sir. My name is Rob DeRosa. I'm the Senior Business Representative for Teamsters Local 252. And so we are in negotiations, AFSCME is in negotiations, and the Police Guild. And so we're coming together as a labor group because we feel that your bargaining committee has not treated the employees fairly. And what I mean by that is that these folks behind me, especially the public works that I represent, they take care of the citizens, right? Wastewater, water, they're very, very critical and crucial to the city. And I thought it was important to address the council because I'm not sure how much information is passed on after what's going on at the table. I was here 3 years ago with the mayor, and he said he was going to take care of the employees, and I just feel that's not happening this time. I don't know why. And so Local 252 represents 5 counties, and we represent a majority of the municipalities in those 5 counties. And this is the last one that we are bargaining. I bargained the Tumwater agreement at the beginning of the year. They took care of their employees, specifically the starting wages, which I believe here are too low. And so that's why there's some turnover. But it's critical that your employees and the citizens, people, to be taken care of. And I feel like that's not happening. And so I thought it was important. And there's a few of them behind me that feel like they're not. And so since I'm their representative, for the Teamsters anyways, that I feel it's important to address the council. And so what we want is a fair contract. Our the International Brotherhood of Teamsters did a audit of your finances, and the city is doing beyond well. And so in the reserves. So it's not an issue of we can't afford it. It's an issue of the bargaining team that you've put together who's just, in my opinion, not listening. And I'll give you an example is our group wants to participate in the Teamsters pension plan, the Western Conference of Teamsters Pension. It's the #1 in the country. It's funded 98% to 100%. It's never gone in the yellow zone or the red zone during the financial crisis. It is doing very well. And your employees want to participate in that, and they want to pay for it themselves. Okay, we're not asking the city to pay anything. And so I get the pushback.
Please.
Okay, I get the pushback that there's unfunded liability. There is not. And so for whatever reason, the bargaining committee is on the city side is stuck on that. And so I think that I don't think it's a big ask. I think we could move things along if there was an agreement with that. Thank you.
I think we'll go ahead and I don't want people thinking that we aren't trying to take care of the citizens or the employees here, the city of Yelm. If we're allowed to, I think we will go ahead and share the current proposals and put it to the public to allow the public to go ahead and view those publicly. So
I'd be in charge, but okay.
if it's allowable, we will. If it's not per our agreements, then we won't. Okay. I just don't think that everyone gets to see what's going on and what they are being offered, what the proposals are, without saying that with the public. But anyway.
So I would say, Joe, that, yeah, it's shared with these folks.
Yeah, okay.
They're not the citizens, no.
Citizens, okay. Well, public will not know about it.
Correct.
We will move on. All right. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify? Speak up. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have the September 24th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Palmer. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right. Just wait a second here. Moving on to new business. We have ordinance number 1125, Berry Valley rezone. Gary, please.
Thank you. Good evening, council. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm here to present a proposed rezone that was applied for by Matthew Garish. We've been working with him actually over probably a period of 2 or 3 years. He's had various proposals. The most recent proposal, which is probably going back maybe 8 months, includes this request for a rezone. The previous proposals were trying to figure out ways to develop the property under the old zoning. Just wasn't working out. So this proposal to rezone is for 14.7 acres, and it would be rezoned from 4 units per acre to 16 units per acre. So to accommodate more of a multifamily housing type of construction. We, through a lot of discussion, came to an agreement to promote the rezone in part because he has agreed to provide 8% of the units at affordable housing levels, which would be units that would be affordable to people who make 60% or less of the area's median income. So that's about as well as you can do without having some applicant who specializes in affordable housing like Habitat for Humanity or whatever. So someone who can afford to do it within the market. Obviously, the trade-off is that we're allowing a lot more density to make it pencil out. So 8% is one that, again, we, over a long period of time and trying to figure out ways to make it pencil out, seem to be about as high as you could go for this project. He has agreed, and we have developed a covenant for this that would run with the land, and it gets recorded, and it's in perpetuity. So the units would remain affordable throughout, the lifetime of the development. There's a reporting requirement. Obviously, the area median income changes from year to year. Rents can change from year to year. But that was really a key part of the proposal for us. Right now, we don't have a final we don't have a submitted application for the units, but about 120 apartments is what's been batted around. So that would be maybe, I think 12, no, not 12, 11, 10, you're better at math than me. But you know, it's a small number of affordable housing units, but you know, it's a drop in the water compared to, you know, we've got a report from Thurston Regional Planning Council a couple weeks ago saying that in 20 years, based on their projections, we will have a deficit of over 2,000 affordable housing units in here. So this is just a start. It's kind of a pilot project. We're trying to find different unique ways, innovative ways to start making a dent in affordable housing and doing it in ways where we can provide incentives for developers to want to do it. So it's not a requirement. This is something that was freely agreed to. So this went to hearing with the Planning Commission on, I believe, September 26th. Planning Commission recommended approval of the rezone. One of the nice outcomes of this also would be Berry Valley Road. As you can see, it kind of goes up and has that sharp angle. You've all been there, I'm sure. It's basically the lowest quality road in the city of Yelm. And upon construction of this development, that road would be brought up to city standards. And on the Berry Valley side, where they have control, there would be a full sidewalk, landscaping strip, the whole nine, just like basically what you see when you're going down to Houma Boulevard. And so not only would that be a benefit just for the immediate area, above that is another subdivision application that's in it's called the Summit at Thompson Creek, which is a 109 lot subdivision, which would not be accessible until that Berry Valley Road is approved. We wouldn't be able to approve the access to the Summit at Thompson Creek without the improvements to Berry Valley Road. So for all those reasons, and just from the standpoint too of the actual housing, including market rate, that number that we need to meet over the next 25 years at 7,500 units. So this is an opportunity to make a dent into that too. So for all those reasons, the Planning Commission recommended approval, and so does Planning Department.
Questions? Councilor Richardson.
So this was a request to rezone by the owner of the property, the Garrett family, or?
Yes. Councilor Wood.
You mentioned that we're going to have requirements that we're going to have to fulfill as far as housing commitments by the state. What happens if we don't?
Well, I don't know. You know, it's a new law. It doesn't say we have to make people do this. The change in the law was the Growth Management Act, the last legislative session. It used to say cities are required to plan for affordable housing. Now, the language was changed slightly to say plan for and accommodate. So what we have to do, and we're doing, is to evaluate like what is our current capacity to accommodate affordable housing. We can't make anybody build anything, but we need to make it possible that if they want to, they can. So some of it has to do with zoning, having more upzoning, having incentives like we just discussed, connect, even just little things like figuring out ways to connect people or developers to programs that can help them do this. So our job is to accommodate it. It's not to require it or build it.
So there's no repercussions if we decide to go a different direction and not pack a bunch more apartments into, that's 224 residents you're talking about there.
Yeah.
That's, and what you're talking about is upgrading a street, but it doesn't change the fact that all of those people are going to come back out onto Houma, out to the main road, and we haven't done anything to mitigate that at all. So
yes, we do. Yes, we do. First of all, we have traffic impact fees, and we require analysis. And if through that traffic impact study, it's determined that it's having an adverse impact, we can require them to upgrade intersections, even if they're half a mile away, if their project is causing those impacts. So
I understand what you're saying. My concern is volume, the amount of people that we're bringing into the community. That's if you, based on what I'm just looking at here, You have housing here, you have a housing development here, you have apartments down here. There's a couple of them over here and new ones down over here. What's gonna happen, I see, if we continue on this pattern, is we're gonna fill all this in with apartments too. And I just think that'll be the Yelm we know won't be here anymore.
Well, I have to say, I guess the Yelm that you know won't be here anymore because it's going to grow to 25,000 people in 20 years. And we're not bringing them in, but we can't keep them out. So we just want to make sure that we develop in the best way possible.
But it sounds like what you're saying is we need to develop to accommodate as many people as we possibly can. And I just don't believe that that's really responsible growth at all. I mean, I don't think that's what we need to do, is accommodate as many people to come out here and live in apartments in Yelm. It just seems like perhaps your vision's different than mine as to what we're looking to get.
It's not really my vision. I mean, the state has mandated that the cities, the county and the cities provide for and accommodate for the growth that they're going to be getting. And so our job is to accommodate it in a way that works the best for infrastructure, for planning, for parks.
I understand all that. It just sounds,
I think you're asking what the consequences are if we don't actually do it.
that's exactly what I'm
It
asking.
sounds like Gary doesn't know exactly, but we will find out for sure what those consequences are. I know usually that it does revolve around funding. If we apply for state funding, usually a lot of state grants or federal grants have, you must follow A, B, and C requirements. If you out of compliance, we usually don't get funding for that. But we will find out exactly what that is and get back. Gary, can you make sure we look that up?
Yeah, I don't think there's an answer right now because.
No, I understand that, but
So.
get that emailed out to you though. That's what.
I do know that, and the thing that worries me, so this has happened in other states, these mandates about accommodating growth and figuring out strategies for affordable housing, because that's the crisis they're trying to deal with, people who can't even afford to live in a house. And I hate to say the ugly word California, because a lot of things happen there first. And the one thing that has resulted from cities that weren't meeting their mandates is the state has come in and taken over their local planning.
Fortunately, we don't live in California.
I know, but I'm just saying I've seen the things that we're doing right now. So we've done housing allocations. We've had to do a land capacity analysis to see if we can actually accommodate what we're directed to try to allow to happen. All of those things happen in linear fashion in other states. And then the last step was for these cities that aren't meeting the goals of their growth management mandates. The state has now given itself the authority to come in and say, we're going to do your planning for you.
California?
Yes.
Once again, thank God we don't live there, and I will continue to fight that doesn't happen here.
Councilor Crossman.
What was the breakdown of units they're building, like apartments to single
I
family?
think it's not in this report because this is for the rezone, but the last thing, and they've given us several different proposals, so I get the numbers jumbled, but I think it was about 120 units.
Apartment, a mix, or is it just all
Those apartments.
It's all apartments? Okay. Will they have so that will require like a neighborhood park in there of some sort?
There's an open space requirement that they have, and there a lot of the property is not going to be developed because they've got Thompson Creek right there, and there's a small bit of floodplain. So about half of that, vertically speaking, about half of that parcel will be open space.
Councilor Richardson.
So aside from, growth management and affordable housing, I want to reiterate to you that, so this was something that was brought up from the owner. They wanted to rezone. They requested to rezone, the owner of the property.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody owns a property and, I always feel it's their right to do, what they want to do with their property. And, we all love HOAs and whatnot. But that to me is the key point of everything beyond all the other things that are planned. I get that. If the owner of the property is requesting this, then that to me speaks more volumes. And whatever time it may take to develop whatever they can do, it's going to be a long ways down, I would imagine. I don't know. I've seen things pop up quick, but not, just to say, if that's what the owner is requesting of the city and it's their property, that's what I'm just trying to clarify, because to me that makes sense. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do with your property,
No, they're advocating pretty hard for this because they don't feel like they can make the development work unless they get more density.
Councilor Hess.
Yes, I have one concern. and it's looking at where the location is. How far away is it from the bus stop that's at Tahoma and 510?
Cody?
We're about half a mile.
Okay, that's my one concern is that what are we doing to hopefully work with intercity transit to maybe get a bus down there, because we have so many high density housing getting ready to, with that apartment complex going and then the various other ones, to be able to help these individuals, in particular, if they are low, if we're looking at doing affordable housing, they probably don't have a car and they rely upon transportation to get to their work.
So I think that's an excellent comment. And as you know, because you sit on the IT board, we've been advocating for getting a bus route to go down to Houma Boulevard and haven't been successful, but I definitely think that these larger developments should be within a quarter mile of the bus stop.
Councilmember Palmer.
Yeah, talking about Richardson's zoning comment, the reason we have zones is because we have a vision for the city, and we can't just have property owners just going willy-nilly, otherwise we'll start looking like McKenna down there, where they got stuff just built up all over the place. That's why we have zoning. And looking at this neighborhood, and having been down in there, there's a lot of, nice, beautiful homes that look out over the valley. Has anybody talked to the surrounding neighbors if they want an apartment complex in their backyard when there's a bunch of 2 and 5 acre parcels and stuff like that out there?
You want to talk about the process a
So
little?
notice was sent to everybody within 300 feet, and it was published in the Nisqually Valley News. And we did have several people who came to I was not there, I was on vacation, but Drew reported back to me the testimony. There were people that were concerned, but from what I understand, once the project was explained, especially the Berry Valley Road upgrades, most people left feeling satisfied with what was being proposed. That's secondhand. I don't know, Cody, is there?
I was there. Yeah, I can talk really quickly. So if you know old families, bakers live down there, butchers, a couple other people, they all came. I know the bakers from when I was a kid. And they were really concerned about the development and just the infrastructure of the road. We told them about the road being upgraded. And then once we mentioned the sidewalk, they were ecstatic because they had major issues. There's no sidewalk there. If you've been on Berry Valley Road, it's about a 14-foot road. And so they were really excited about the upgrades there. They had one request about making sure that if we could work with the school district and put a path through this school property here. So this is school property here. If we could put a path through so kids could walk here to high school instead of having to walk down and around if they're going. And we said we'd work with the school, and I've already started conversations with Chris Hansen, the facilities director, on creating a path so that way kids could have a quick access there that maybe live in this apartment, which I thought was cool. So they were all, like Gary said, they were, the beginning, they were scared, and then they came on, they said it was actually a really good idea, so.
Councilor Richardson, then Wood.
Just thinking again, and I do respect that comment as well, Trevor. I understand that. We have to really look at, again, what we're looking for is and I know you guys were thinking ahead, that's smart, that's what you're supposed to do. But right now, we're just changing rezone from, we're looking at R4 to high density 16. So it's good to have all these ideas in place, but I would imagine that city and even public services have had these thoughts as well. Is anybody here that is, or even online, that needs to testify? I mean, I would imagine if somebody was against this or for this, they would be here tonight, or especially if they were against it, they would be here tonight. I don't know if anybody is here that is against this ordinance tonight. Usually we always find massive amounts of people on Facebook, and they show up part of their tribe to testify. So if there's nobody here to testify or to speak up that is not against this, then either that's just us. So that's what I'm asking.
We'll have, after the council speaks, we'll go ahead. If you want to comment on this item, absolutely.
Just wanted to comment on Cody's comments there. Want to comment on comments. This road you're talking about, where this road here, right? In the city already, right?
Correct.
So what are you saying, that we have not been vigilant in maintaining that road? Because as you mentioned, Gary, that's the worst road in the entire city. So what I'm curious about is, do we really need to build an apartment complex or community in order to upgrade one of our existing roads?
So I think the problem with this is it's one of these old roads that was platted poorly. So if you look at the right-of-way lines here and here, there's no room to upgrade the road to proper standards. The benefit of when a development comes in, this is a property in question, they have to seed right away and build those improvements. So we actually get it. The other option would be to take these people's property that live here and here and say, we're building a road through and buy it from them, or, take it. This is a much cleaner way because the developer goes, I want to do this, I want to build a road, they see the right of way. When these develop, or if they ever develop, then they'll see the extra bit of right of way to get all the upgrade on the other side of the road too. But you'll have a full complete road, but just the sidewalk on one side versus sidewalk.
And I know you probably don't know the exact numbers, but if we had to upgrade that road ourselves versus having a developer do it for no cost, what would that be?
Lots. I mean, the biggest part of that is the right-of-way acquisition, right? We have about, I think there's 8 or 9 property owners on there that've been there for a long time, as we know. Everybody knows the Bakers, right? And so buying, like, we have to then take land from them. They don't want to get rid of their land to buy the 18 feet we need on one side and 18 feet on the other. That's a long process. Plus upgrading about a mile stretch of road, which we know costs a couple million. That's why this road has been stuck like this. There's nothing we can do besides fill potholes and clean it up. We can't expand it to standards, which is super unfortunate. This helps quite a bit because now a developer will come in and expand it for us. That's part of development, which is great in this aspect.
Councilmember Hess, you have your hand up?
Yes, I want to talk about the fact of the rezoning and all. I understand some concerns about rezoning, in particular when it's a plan that we as a community, as community representatives have put together, but we've already done rezoning at the request of property owners. And I just find it odd now that we're having an issue with doing rezoning now. This one I find is a reasonable one. And as long as we are able to accommodate those that may not have cars to make sure that they have access to public transportation, that's the big concern we should be concerned with at this time.
Councilmember Wood?
If I could remind Councilmember Hess that we were not in full agreement on all the rezoning that has taken place over the last period of time.
Any other
Okay,
questions?
no, I want to reply to that, saying how he has brought it up. You are correct. We weren't always in agreement. But if you want to sit down now and say, well, we're not going to be in agreement because this was how we had planned the city, I'm sorry, that it's a little late to do that one, because we took away commercial property. We took away the capability of having retail space available for small businesses of Yelm that are still looking for retail space with one of those. And we did it to bring in more single family homes, even though the individual could have still brought housing in, just not single family homes.
I think you're right.
I was going to explain one thing about the process.
Sure.
So this is just the rezone part of it. When they submit an actual application, we'll have to go through the process with traffic impact. They'll have to look at traffic facilities where they're at. It'll go to the hearing examiner before the development, because right now they don't even have a verified site plan, right? They just wanted to rezone to create a site plan, create a development. That would still have to go through the process of all of our developments go through, which has traffic impact, where it shows, hey, we're failing this intersection, we have to do something. So just rezoning it doesn't allow them to start building houses tomorrow. They still have to go through the whole process with everything else.
Is there any questions from any of the council members that haven't had any questions? Go ahead, Councilmember
This
Kaminsky.
is one of our last areas for the high density zoning, isn't it? I mean, how much, do we have anything else at R16?
We do. And in our urban growth area and some areas that we would be planning to annex, we have some R16. Once again, Cody, who's been here forever, would know exactly the parcel, I'm sure, but it's scattered throughout the city.
There is R16, and these two parcels right here are zoned R16. That's why this is it's a decent request, because there are parcels next to it zoned the same. And then we have high density. We'll try to zoom out a little bit down here too. This is zoned R16 over here. So they're all kind of linked R16.
If there's no other questions, we'll open up to the public if they want to comment on it. Anyone from the public wish to comment on this?
Just on this topic?
Yes. On this agenda item.
All right, I spoke,
Please stand and state your name for the
I
record.
did speak with Darlene Baker today, and what I
Please state your name for the record, please, ma'am.
Rebecca Galbraith. I spoke with Darlene Baker today, and she informed me that it was 14 acres that was available. She lives up on Berry Mountain Road, and she told me that per acre, you decided and voted in front of her family that you would put 16 units per acre. Is that erroneous?
No, that's correct.
Well, I thought I just heard you say that it was 11 or so.
No, I was talking about the number of affordable units within the development would be 11. But the actual proposal, I think, was for about 120 units.
Yeah, okay. I'm concerned about your seeming resignation that it's a foregone conclusion that here in Yelm, we have to continue with this rampant urban sprawl. And this whole narrative of the government that we don't have enough housing is erroneous because in fact we do. What we don't have, and there was even a report in June 2024 from the University of Kansas that said overall in the country we have more than enough housing. It's that we don't have enough affordable housing. So why our population continues to grow is because we're opening our arms to these tenements that we're building and saying, come on down. Well, I don't know anyone personally that's thrilled about it, including the Baker family.
Anyone else wish to comment from the public? Yes, please turn to the podium, state your name.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Martell, and I just have a question. I'm here to learn, but I always like to be the voice for nature to a certain degree. So I'm curious, since there's a creek that goes through here, will there be an environmental impact study on that waterway with a huge high density and a tiny little creek and where it goes, as far as how that's going to affect the waterway and that area through there? So I'm open, but I just wanted to check on that one.
Yeah. So we have a critical areas ordinance in the city that has developed to protect streams, wetlands, groundwater, steep slopes, oak woodlands, all that. So the environmental study that you're referring to has basically been done in terms of in the critical areas ordinance, streams are stream typed. They're types that are established by Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they go from the highest quality to the lowest. Thompson Creek is, I think, a type 3 stream. As you know, it's not a large stream, but it has a 150-foot buffer. And so that's basically the environmental review that's already gone into it. There's a little bit of a floodplain area. No development can occur in that. It's kind of almost identical with sort of the Thompson Creek buffer. So the other piece of that is that we have a stormwater requirement that to treat any runoff from the parking lots or the roofs or what have you, has to comply with the Department of Ecology stormwater manual to make sure that they're not discharging any untreated water off the site. So we have a civil engineer who reviews they develop that with an engineer, and then our civil engineer reviews it and ensures that it complies with the manual. So a lot of the environmental work these days, because we have the critical areas ordinance, is kind of upfront environmental work that we've done through ecology and fish and wildlife to establish regulations to protect the streams and the wetlands and other things. So this, as I mentioned earlier, this development, if you look at this square, and if you cut it right down the middle, all the development is going to be occurring on this side, the Berry Valley Road side. This area here is going to be open space. And another thing that we do, we require through the critical areas ordinance as part of the development, just for future residents, is we have them put signs along the buffer of the critical area saying this is a protected area. Of course, that's some people may ignore that, it happens, but I mean, we do try to make sure that people are made aware that it is a protected area, it's a buffer area, it's not to be disturbed.
The 150, so it's just 150 feet away from the actual parking lot?
Not basically the ordinary high water mark of the stream. So you start at the stream and you go that far. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilor Kaminsky.
I'd like to move to adopt ordinance 1125, rezoning parcel 21724 to 30400 from low density residential R4 to high density residential R60.
Councilmember Kingheiser got you just by here. Second, is there any further discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote. Councilmember Wood, how do you vote?
No.
Councilor Richardson?
Yay.
Councilor Crossman?
Yes.
Councilor Kingheiser?
Yes.
Councilmember Hess? Councilmember Hess,
Yes.
Councilmember Palmer. No. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Johnson, yeah, go ahead. Moving on to our next item on under new business. Thank you, Gary. We have a department budget presentation with Kids in the Court. Finance tonight? No. Finance will be next meeting, sorry, and IT. That's right. Sonia.
It'll be me, I'm sorry.
You listen next year. Thank you.
This will be the first of a few meetings with budget presentations as we get through it. Our schedule, I think, has us late December. Stephanie, are we passing in the end of December, beginning of December, end of November?
By the end of November.
End of November. So we still have a lot more time with this, but this will be good for council to see what's going on with each of the departments, their requests. Are we about ready, Sonia, or Chief?
I'm just getting to share the screen.
Thank you. Council, Mayor, thank you. Police Department budget presentation. I'm going to go through our achievements as a police department in 23 and 24. Then we're going to go over the goals for 25 and 26. And then we're going to touch base with the budget requests. And then at the end, we'll have questions. So accomplishments, 23, 24, obviously the most important one is everybody went home after every shift. We obviously added additional commission personnel due to vacancies, budgeted positions. We added a incident commander to the SWAT team to assist with SWAT operations, which AC Tillman Atkins is that commander. Bringing that knowledge and expertise back to our city is shown multiple times. So I'm glad we did that. We added 2 new SWAT officer positions to make 3 total. And again, that the experience and training that those officers have and bring back to our community is priceless. Promoted 1 patrol sergeant to a vacant assistant chief position. Promoted 1 patrol officer to a vacant patrol sergeant position. Added 3 sergeants to oversee the specialty unit, or 3rd sergeant to oversee the specialty unit. I wish we had 3 sergeants there, but that piece right there was important because what it did is that sergeant was to develop a training program, and that goes into the next one, that their training program has allowed each officer to receive 4 times the state mandated 24-hour state mandated training requirements. So that's huge. That was a big achievement. 2 school resource officers that were added to the specialty unit to complete the goal of 3 SROs. Implemented 4 vehicle identification camera systems for the city, which is a great system to have, and we're excited to have it. Added 1 officer to the Thurston County Accident Investigation Team. That's going to be important there because as I go through the budget requests, it'll kind of make better sense in what I'm saying. Another big one is we implemented the Faro trauma kits, and each officer received the training and gets a kit on their body as well as in their vehicle. And what those kits do with the training that the officers have, they provide immediate trauma care to patients prior to medics to arrive in a critical incident, and that has proven to save lives. So that was a big deal there as well. Goals for 25 and 26, obviously adding commissioned personnel, replacing outdated equipment such as firearms and tasers, creating that metro unit, which goes along with having that officer on the Thurston County Traffic Accident Investigation Team. That in combination is going to be huge for our community. Adding a 2nd detective to assist with growing caseloads that are required lengthy, detailed investigations. As we grow and we have more cases, our caseload starts to get bigger, but not only that, as the cases start to become lengthy in their investigation, it's taking up a lot of time. So adding that 2nd detective is going to be a big deal for us. Adding 4 more additional flock cameras to help with the coverage of the city, which would bring us to 8.
Looking into additional options for pursuit technology. I've got Star Chase up there right now, but there's other things that we could look into. And I think as we start to get into the new pursuit laws and allowing our officers to pursue, we're finding that our vehicles are getting damaged and people are getting hurt. And I think it's important that we try to minimize that with some technology that's out there to help our officers fight crime with that and minimize the damage. Continue to build open communication with our supervisors and staff. That's a no-brainer. We've got to continue to do that. And then adding more officers to our field training program. Field training officers take new officers and they train them that come out of the academy or that are lateral officers. So we need more field training officers to process that and become good mentors to our police department. But 25-26 budget request for us, I'm going to request 3 patrol officers. The first one would be in 2025, the estimated cost of $237,000. That price tag is for everything. That's putting an officer on the road, pulling a shift. Vehicles, their equipment, their wages, benefits, everything. We would then look at 2 in 2026 at the estimated cost of $474,000. The officer in 25 would allow us to create that metro unit to have an officer do nothing but focus their attention on traffic. 26, the 2 bodies in 26 would allow us to remove the sergeants from the schedule, have them work in the schedule, the scheduled places where the sergeants are at, so the sergeants can navigate through their squads and get better supervision for their teams. I'll be looking at adding 2 detective positions, one in 2025 at the estimated cost of $5,100. That $5,100 is the 5% that an individual gets to become a detective and hold that position. Right now, Sergeant Sparkle, who is the detective sergeant of the specialty unit, is doing the detective position. So as our caseload grows, it's important that we fill that position and allow him to be more of a supervisor for that division. In 26, add that second detective at the same price, again, in that anticipation of our caseload growing. Block cameras, adding those 4 additional cameras. In May of 25, our contract that we have now is going to be expired with Block. My request would be that we renew that contract and add 4 more cameras. That would be at $28,000 in 25 and $26,500 in 26. Block they gave us the perfect number for our city and what we should have based upon our geography and size, and that was 8. So we're trying to accomplish that. And the last thing is a UTV off-road vehicle. We have a lot of areas in the city that we're developing and we've originally had that we have a difficult time getting a patrol vehicle to. And I think that this would give us that opportunity to be able to get to those areas, as well as, you know, we have different things like National Night Out, Prairie Days and things like that. But another time that I thought about that this would be important to have is during 4th of July, there's a lot of times we can't get through neighborhoods. And this right here would allow us to get through those neighborhoods. And that's it. You guys got any questions for me?
Pretty simple. Thank you, Chief. So, yeah.
Thank you, Chief. And I will be my turn.
Sonia, would you introduce yourself for those that don't?
Yes,
know?
I can do that.
You can stand up by the mic and do it.
I'm sorry. I'm Sonia Ramirez. I am the court administrator for our municipal court. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Where? Oh. And technology are just not. Okay. Well, good evening. Okay, so mine's gonna be very similar to what our chief just did. I'm gonna go over our accomplishments for 2023 and 2024, our goals for the upcoming biennium, and then my budget requests. So the accomplishments, we did start the implementation process of our paperless court by using Laserfish, which the city currently already uses, and additionally already uses. I'm sorry about that. Additionally costs, I'm not sure where that came from. So I think the cost part is there isn't any additional costs to the city because we're to use that software currently. It has modernized our court processes, created consistency in our electronic forms through using N-Court, and improved access to justice. N-Court, for those of you that are not familiar with it, is our electronic forms for the court. And so it's so much easier, very consistent, very user-friendly for everyone. We also reconfigured office space for better workflow. We purchased and implemented GovQA portal for public records request processing. This is also used by City Hall and our police department and Public Works. And this is a big one. We completed the State versus Blake vacates and uploads to the Washington Courts refunds portal. It was a total of 532 cases for our municipal court. And
Can you briefly explain what that is?
so what the State versus Blake is in 2021, the Washington State Supreme Court found that the law criminalizing drug possession was unconstitutional. So for us, any cases that were or charges that came before our court February 25th of 2021 and prior to that had to be reopened, put through the a court hearing, vacated, dismissed, closed again, removed from the records. So it was a process. It was a very lengthy process. And again, it was 532 cases that we were able to complete.
Why did the state, what was the base of the
That's a very good question, and I'm happy to, yeah.
Very briefly, it was a state court decision, a Supreme Court decision that changed basically how they determine drug possession. Is that? And but it's a lot to explain. Just
I'm happy to share.
Yeah,
I'm happy to share that email. I do have that, the court's decision. I can email that. I can do that. And so.
That's crazy.
So that was our accomplishments. Our 2025-2026 goal is to complete the implementation of paperless court. We did start that in 2023. It's a long process. There's thousands of files to scan paper by paper, upload them to Laserfish and organize them. And there's 2 of us in the office. So with that and all the other court work that we have to do on a daily basis, obviously it's a slow process, but the goal is to have it all completed and get rid of whatever files we have left. Together with the Yelm Police Department, we are planning to provide training for our officers for better understanding of court processes and procedures. This training is probably going to happen in the wintertime around February. It would include our city prosecutor, our officers during their trainings, and court office staff. That way they can understand what we do once we receive their citation, and they can have any questions for the prosecutor. We will continue to work on accessing more resources, services, and programs that ensure justice, such as building new partnerships, community therapeutic court processes, and court grants to improve services. We're also planning on implementing a text messaging reminder system for our court customers. This actually I'm excited about. I'm still looking at 2 vendors. This will probably be no cost to the city, but it would allow our court customers to sign up for text reminders so that they know when their upcoming hearing is, when their payment is coming up. And it's just the convenience for them and reliability for us as well. We will complete judicial information system cleanup reports. So our current court system is Judicial Information System, or JIS. We have, it's a very old system. There's a new case management system coming up, and it's my last bullet. It's called Enterprise Justice. The state is fully funding this new case system, but they are requiring us to go through numerous cleanup reports so that we don't take old stuff into the new system. So that's just another area as well that we're going to be working on. And then the last bullet is the implementation of the new COJ CMS, which is the Courts of Limited Jurisdiction Case Management System. Again, the name of the new system will be called Enterprise Justice. And those are our goals. My budget requests for the needed biennium would be to add a new full-time court clerk. And historically, the court office has been operating with only 2 office staff for the past 40 years, 1 court clerk and 1 court administrator. As the city and the police force continue to grow, like she was explaining, pretty much any caseload that they produce affects everything that the court does as well. Our caseload and workload will increase, and therefore adding this full-time employee, entry-level clerk, will not only serve as a backup to the current court clerk, but it will also contribute to our workload distribution and overall improve our efficiencies and provide better service as well. This is a much-needed addition to assist with our office duties, and it will also allow myself, the court administrator, to focus more on just administrator work tasks without having to be the backup, as we have been doing for the last 40 years. Regarding the costs, it is approximately $50,000 per year that I will be, that is currently offsetting revenues from current probation fees that we collect and passport fees. But the total funding needed for this position is $91,650 for year 1 and $91,650 for year 2. But again, there's $50,000 that we currently collect in revenues. My second and last budget request will be $2,000 to be fully funded from the general fund. This will cover the 5 scanners that will be needed once we implement the new court case management system that is coming. I was told by the Washington courts that we are probably in line to implement that system at the end of 2025 into early of 2026. So it would affect our budget. So I would be asking for $2,000 for that. And that's all I have.
That's Richardson, the motions.
I'm actually, it's more of a comment. I'm excited about this court training for the officers. If you're going to enforce the law, you've got to have all aspects of it. And I think there's going to be a huge part of that. So there's not going to be this disconnect just from, on the field and then actually get to see what happens. So I'm actually excited about that. I think it's going to help officers make, better decisions and have the whole encompassing, I think it just is well-rounded. So I'm excited for that.
Just a clarification question on your 91,650 per year is what you need for your budget. I'm curious, was that 50,000 reduced from that? So are you saying 41,000 or is that
Offsetting costs.
offsetting?
They're collecting about 50,000 in revenue.
Every year.
Anticipated revenue.
Correct.
Okay, so that would be
Added, yeah. If added, they anticipate about 50,000 or so in revenue generated from that person taking in mainly passports, I believe, or.
Passports and some probation fees that are currently being collected.
So that would offset slightly, like 50%, about half.
so that would reduce that $50,000.
It would reduce the 90 to 50, yeah.
91.
Right, correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Sonia. All right, moving on to our next item on the budget. We have a preliminary budget discussion for the 2025. Well, oh my gosh, Jason. I am sorry, I just skipped over Jason when IT's presentation. Please, I'm sorry. My bad.
You want to?
I'm gonna ask that shit.
See how quick he gets his computer works.
It's a process.
He's how long you been working for the city? Now,
16 years, I'd say.
been a long time. He's doing a good job protecting us from viruses and bad players and all that.
They're trying to keep us all going. One theme you'll notice is a lot of our accomplishments you'll see from each of our departments have a little piece of it that's IT related. For example, in that case, it was the Laserfish, and then the police had some of their records management systems.
Take up a considerably amount, a lot of time for IT. They have to deal with not only their network like we do here at City Hall, but also their vehicles and all that stuff that takes up a lot of their time.
So make sure I'm muted here and share my screen.
Just.
All right. So, good evening, council. Good evening, mayor. Good evening, public. I'm Jason Hardy, IT director for the city of Yelm. Tonight, we're going to be going over our budget presentation and the last biennium's accomplishments and the next biennium's goals. We'll start here with our 2023-2024 accomplishments. We've been deploying a lot of systems throughout the city. We've been, as you guys have all been listening over this year, deploying 365, which is a huge undertaking for the city. It completely redoes all the day-to-day work that every staff member touches of how we interact with that, how we work, brings us more into the cloud to allow them to work anywhere where they're at, whether they're traveling or whether they're on site. As part of that deployment, we've had to deploy a lot more security. You'll notice that this biennium and next biennium, we're going to be focusing heavily on security. It's one of the things that all the IT departments in the area are going to have to focus on. For us, that was pushing out citywide multi-factor authentication, which forces everyone to have to use two forms of passwords. So you have a password and then you have your fingerprint or a password and an app on your phone, things like that. We've had to push out some new firewall smart appliances. Those are our edge device protection to keep people out of our network. So, when you have adversarial countries trying to attack us during all the turmoil we're experiencing in the world right now, without these devices, they would be able to come in, give us ransomware and other things you see on the news on a regular basis. So we've deployed out new devices for that. We also, in that deployment, pushed out new devices to all of our end users in our computers to protect those individual devices as well. In case something gets past that first layer, we have another layer. And in our world, we call that the security onion. Security is an onion. It has many layers, and you have to stack those layers together to protect your critical core. So with that, we had the endpoint deployment. We got to do the new digital sign. It was a little controversial there, but it's out there, and hopefully everyone's happy with the end results. We came in way under budget, so we're super happy about that. We deployed 38 new computers last biennium. That's quite a big undertaking. Aaron did a vast majority of that work for us. We're constantly upgrading computers, but we kind of do it in packets so that we don't have to constantly interrupt ourselves. So each couple years I think we're on a 6-year cycle now. So every 6 years, we try to do all the computers throughout the city, but we break it up into little sections so that we don't get overwhelmed. We deployed something called Pisces. That's a more recent deployment. It's a public infrastructure security something. It's a foundation that we put this device on the outside of our network, and it's an education system. It teaches students to look at that. Now, it doesn't see any of our data. They just see where we're connecting, and then they analyze that metadata, and it helps teach and train the new cyber experts of tomorrow. So we're one of the few cities that are a part of that program, and it's no cost to us, and it gives us an extra layer of security. So Mike Hamilton from Critical Insight helped us set that up.
We deployed the new access control system for the Yelm Community Center. I've been hearing good things that people are liking the way the new doors work. They don't have to deal with those keys anymore if any of you guys had to in the past. This new system is much easier. You just put your pin in, bang, you're in. And from what we hear, everyone's happy, so that's good. And we acquired a new backup solution to help more protect our data here in Yelm. We have a pretty good system before. This is just adding a whole nother layer to that security onion layer to keep us from having cryptoware or ransomware put us and cryptolize us and have us have to pay them. Like that's the worst case scenario, right? We end up having to pay them. With this new system, that should never have to be the case.
Them usually?
Russia, China, North Korea. But we just try really hard. That's definitely the ransomware. I don't know if you guys watch the news, but it's hitting every industry around the world every day. We had over 200 cases of ransomware in local government in Washington state alone this year. So that's people getting cryptoware. Knock on wood. Luckily, we weren't one of them, and hopefully we won't be. I put some cool little graphics up there to represent those two things. Let's move on to the next section. I want to take up your guys' whole night. Our 25-26 goals are we plan on deploying a new server cluster. Every 7 years, we revamp our internal infrastructure. That's what runs all of the software and stuff that we have internal, like, our payroll, everything that we do day to day inside. Our Laserfish Forms system, for example. We plan on looking at deploying a new phone system. Our current phone system's getting a little old and, we don't want to be past prime and then all of a sudden it goes down and we don't have phones until we fix it, right? So we kind of get ahead of that. We are going to focus on developing and expanding our IT policy and procedures. I have been here for a long time, and when I was here by myself, that's one of those things I got overlooked, to be honest with you guys. We'll take ownership of that. I really want to expand on that. We have some, but we would like to expand that and really kind of solidify it so that, someday if I retire, someone's gone, we have these nice, good policies that the next person can come in and follow and, continue on what we've been doing. We'd also like to, hopefully with one of our requests coming up, audit all of our internal IT infrastructure configurations, kind of look at it, get a fresh eyes on it, make sure it's up to date and good. We would like to conduct some pen testing. So that's like when you hire a third party to come in and kind of hack you and see how, where you're vulnerable at and come in and fix those vulnerabilities. It's offered by free from a lot of agencies. You just have to do the work to get them to come out. So like, applications and grant funding, things like that. So it's a lot of work to get them to come out, but it's worth it. We would like to, Brian mentioned when we were buying 365 about training staff and making sure we use it properly. So one of our focuses next year that we've deployed is to get that training out to all the staff, including the council, to make sure that they're using that new software to the fullest it can do. We are going to be doing quite a big migration with the police officers here to move their equipment they have now into a more modern environment. It's going to be quite the undertaking, but we're excited to do that. We're slated to replace another 33 computers as well, and we are hoping to fill the network administrator position that's on the next slide here. So our major budget request this year is to fill the network administrator position. This position would focus mainly on our network configurations. So that's like all the stuff that runs our infrastructure here, as well as security, and then helping Aaron and I with the ticket load. I believe, just going back here for a number to check. Oh, it got covered up. That's why I didn't read it. I accidentally covered it up. We did 19,600 tickets in the last biennium. That's a lot of tickets for 2 people. And Aaron does a vast majority of those tickets because I'm stuck doing more of the administrator work, right?
What do some of those tickets look like?
So they can range from anywhere from a notice that something happened and we have to just look at and be like, okay, great, that's okay, to, oh gosh, there's a major failure of something and we have to spend days fixing it. One, for example, was when a squirrel ate through our fiber line. Man, was that a week of adventure. Never thought that would ever happen, but we were up late nights, making sure that fiber got reconnected and got all our buildings back up. And it was definitely an adventure, but we got it. I kept the piece of fiber the squirrel
You live a thrilling life, my friend.
It was a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of stress, trying to make sure that we still had our contingencies running, making sure our systems were, because that runs our water systems, it runs our sewer systems. And we had to make sure it's great to know you have backup systems to run those things, but when you have to go onto them and you're limping along on these backup systems, now you have no backup to the backup of the backup, right? So you're like, oh man, we don't want our water to go down, right? So we ended up being good. Everything ran in good. We had a good connection. Everything came out good. Pretty good under cost on that too. But to go back to the request and why it's so important to us, right now, Aaron and we are not at 110% capacity, but we're definitely at capacity. We're constantly doing all these different things. It interrupts our project time. So as you guys got to see, like when we say, oh yeah, we'll do the sign, that'll be great. It'll be 6 months. We don't want to have to be that. You guys don't want to have to deal with that. The city doesn't want to deal with that. And having this extra person will allow us to reduce the project times and the leeways on those project times significantly. So there is a lot of benefit. And again, as you see, as we grow as a city, as we continue adding staff, we're part of all of that. So every time you get a new officer, every time you get a new anything, that increases our amount of tickets. It increases our amount of infrastructure we need. It increases everything. So we've been really doing the best we can with what we have, but we're just really hopeful that everyone's on board, that it's time to expand that department, get another body here, and really help us get the security even more locked in so that we don't have to be on the news someday, hopefully. And even if we are, it'll be a good story about how well we responded as a city. Because I mean, the reality is it's not if, it's when, but what we want is that story to be good. That it happened, we recovered, we didn't have to pay a ransom, and that we had a very small downtime. And that's our goal. And do you guys have any questions?
Councilor Kaminsky.
Not as important, of course, as security, but is there any way to increase the contrast on the digital sign? Because it's not all that intense it's hard to read. So,
In terms, do you mean more of the brightness of it?
well, just the contrast between the writing and the background. That's the high definition of it.
Yeah, so when I think of contrast, I think of how the images are created and coloring. Like a contrast to me is the color of the words versus the color of the background to make it stand out more.
Just make it easier to read.
And that would be, I would ask Lynn maybe on that one. I'm not creating those images. In terms of brightness though, that is part of what we had all talked about when we decided to go with a more inexpensive solution instead of $50,000 where you're buying these big, bright, made to be signs versus a TV that it's bright and I think it's legible, but I totally hear what you're saying. That difference is cost. So if we wanted to have a super bright, vibrant sign, you're going back to the $50,000+. And I don't know about you guys, but if it's in the middle of the day and I can still read it, I'm pretty happy because it was $2,500 for that TV versus $50,000 for a digital sign. And I'm like, whoa. I'll take that savings.
Other questions? Councilor Palmer?
How much about would it be for that network admin position roughly, per year?
Total package, the whole package, it's about 130,000, I believe. I'd have to double check the number, but it was right around that.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's split across the entire city. So it's not one fund. It comes from everything.
Everybody uses IT. Correct. Perfect.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, sorry to forget IT, but now we're on to the preliminary budget discussion, 2025-2026 biennial budget. Stephanie.
Plugged in. All right.
We were gonna have finance earlier, but since she's doing this as well, we're gonna do it in a different one.
Yeah, better just in case. Okay.
So it says somebody else.
I got you. I'm gonna get you right now. Sorry about that. That's popcorn. Everyone gets the C2 factor at work right there. All right. It's gonna send me my alert here.
Side by side. Yeah, DI needs IT help.
No, I do. Stop sharing. There you go. All done.
Good.
There you go, Stephanie.
Or Jason, could you help out with the, making the
IT.
yeah, making the public one rather than Brian's?
You gotta put a ticket in for that.
Oh, just in terms of where it needs to show.
He did that on purpose.
Just to show you the need.
Yeah.
Send you those numbers.
He's gonna send you a ticket for your autograph.
18,207 tickets.
All right, so this is the first of a handful of discussions on the budget. And so I just want to remind everybody that this is a very fluid process. So these are just preliminary numbers. They will change as we go through the process, and maybe council has suggestions and we are incorporating different things. These numbers will change. So this is our preliminary numbers. So we just want to start going through this. And as I go through it, Todd and I will kind of tag team through this. And if you have any questions, just stop us and we will be happy to answer those questions. So this just goes through our budget goals, policies, and objectives. So goals, safe neighborhoods, sustainable, cost-effective infrastructure, strong, diverse economy, clean and vibrant public places, and the best run government that we can do. So our policy is to maintain a balanced budget for ongoing programs and to maintain the general fund ending balance at a minimum of, actually that's up to 22% now of annual expenditures. I had him proof my PowerPoint and he did not catch that. So our objectives are to ensure financial integrity, sound and prudent financial management, maintain programs, ensuring the long-term ability to maintain those programs, and then promote openness and transparency. So this is just a short budget message, and I want to stress that this PowerPoint will be in the agenda packet when that is available.
So it's uploaded on our website now.
So you will be able to get a copy of this. So we've talked about this before. This is a team effort to put this preliminary budget together. It's a team effort between the mayor, the city administrator, and the department directors. And then as we go through it, it's an effort for the council members and all of us to work through it. We're pleased with the proposed budget, but we know that it's the ongoing process and we still have unknowns that need to go into this budget. So one of the unknowns is where's the property tax going to land? Because we don't have the final numbers from Thurston County yet. And so we don't know exactly how much the property tax is going to be. And I don't expect those numbers probably until the 1st of November. We are in the process of 3 different union labor negotiations. When those get finalized, that will impact this. So there's just many things that are ongoing as we go through this process. Oops, how do I back up? So this first page, this is a citywide snapshot of every fund in the city. So it goes down the list and it has beginning fund reserves that we've tried to estimate. And then it has a column for the estimated revenues, and this is for 2025. Estimated expenditures for 2025, and then an estimated ending fund balance for 2025.
You said this is available online.
This presentation will be available. Yeah. And I know that's kind of hard to read, but we're going to dive into some of the major funds as we go along, but this is just an overview. So this is a graph of the general fund, and what I want to do is this is a graph that is coming straight out of the ClearGov software that we purchased, and we're building the budget in that software. Because the whole budget book isn't ready yet, we don't actually have that
published. So I just did a screenshot of this graph out of that software. And so you can see when we're to the right of this graph, it looks like the green columns are the revenue and the blue columns are the expenditures. And so it looks like we're exceeding our revenues in 25 and 26. Those differences are due to one-time monies that we're spending. This is the data that created that chart. And so what I want to do is just hop into ClearGov really quick and show you that chart and show you what you and the citizens are going to be able to see when you go onto our website, click on our budget book, and that ClearGov budget book is going to open. So I'm just going to go to. Is that the internet? Cody, how do I get to the internet?
Jason, help.
I got that one. So you didn't bring your mouse in?
IT has layers like onion.
Back up to good tonight.
Onions make you cry.
Think it in the budget. Just want to go on the web?
I want to go on this one.
Oh, Edge. Open.
Yeah.
Did you zoom your, oh, you didn't share your whole screen, you just shared the app. Let's share your screen. Yeah. That's good. And then you have it open. Here, you can drag that. Got it?
All right.
Click it again, then click. There you go.
Okay, so this would be what it would look like when you go on to our website. And as you'll see, if I hover my mouse over the 2026 numbers, the chart, the bars, it's going to show you the numbers, right? So this is showing you 2026 budgeted revenue sources, 9.8 million, budgeted expenditures, 10 million. If I go to 2025, that's going to show you the 2025 numbers. So the citizens, elected officials, anybody who goes on our website, they're going to be able to look at this data. So if I scroll down, here's the graph, here's the actual numbers that are created. So citizens can go and look at this whole chart, look at all the numbers. The next chart that I was going to show in the PowerPoint are the revenues for the general fund. And again, if you hover over, you'll see retail sales and use tax is 38.9% of general fund revenues. If I go down here, B&O tax is 26.29% of revenues. General property taxes are 18.25 and so on. And it'll show every category of general fund revenues and what percentage that makes of the general fund. And then it does the same for expenditures. You can go and see that public safety is 44% of general fund expenditures. And you can go to all the different categories, general government, that's community development, culture and recreation. So I think this is, I think people are going to enjoy these graphs and such. And then again, there's the spreadsheet, there's the breakout of everything that the public and everybody can look at. So I'm really pleased with the software so far. It's been a lot of work to get all this data in it, but I think it's going to be very user-friendly for people. So I'm gonna go back in. All right, so now I'm back in the PowerPoint and this is the general fund data that we were talking about. So just looking at this, if you want to look at 2025, you'll see that we're estimating our beginning fund balance in 2025 to be about 4.9 million. Our estimated revenues are going to be about 11 million. It's right here. And then, oops. The estimated expenditures are about 12.5 million. And then we'll end the year with about 5 million in the general fund. Those are the revenues by source that we were just looking at the ClearGov, the taxes and all the different breakdowns. And then there's the expenditures by function within the general fund. So this is a spreadsheet that I put together, and it is driven off of a forecast that I do. We do a 5-year out forecast of the general fund. So we track beginning reserves, revenues, expenditures, and ending reserves, and we try and look out at least 5 years. So the one thing that this graph shows you, the blue line is our 22% of operating and maintenance reserves that we always want to have set aside in the general fund. And so you can look at 2025, we're going to have about 1.9 million set aside for that O&M reserve in the general fund. We're going to have about 1.58. Right now, the preliminary budget is saying there's about 1.58 in the general fund of undesignated reserves. Now, some of that is going to be used up as we progress through this budget and we change or add or take away things. And as we resolve the union contracts, some of that will be used up, right? But this 802,000, I think, is important because that is telling you that is the operating, how much the operating revenues exceed the operating expenditures. Because remember, we never want to have operating expenditures exceed operating revenues, right? We want to always be equal or like this. So what we've done with this projection is we've said, okay, based on historical data and with not knowing large things that might come in the future, like large commercial or residential developments, those are unknowns. But just based on historical data with modest growth, will we be able to support operating expenditures in the next 5 years? And so what this is showing you is that going out 5 years, we're still going to be where operating revenues are still above operating expenditures. So that's what this 75,000 is in the bottom corner. We're saying, looking 5 years out, we're comfortable with where our operations are in this proposed budget because we can continue those operations out at least 5 years and be able to afford them and support them.
Stephanie, when you make these projections, are they on more on the conservative side or are you putting in bigger numbers?
They're conservative. We're basing them on the things that we know. And so, for example, sales tax usually in the past has been about 2.5% increase every year. So that's what we use to project out the next 5 years. So it's a good question because there might be a huge commercial development. Maybe we get a Costco. Well, that would skyrocket sales tax revenue, right? But that's an unknown to us. I would never plug that into the forecast, right? Because I don't want to rely on something like that.
Thank you.
So as far as putting this preliminary budget together, like I said, we're comfortable with the operations that we're proposing, that we can maintain those operations at least through the next 5 years. Any comments?
I was just going to comment on the on the reserve portion, the 22%. As you've seen, because we forgot to change it, council used to have set that at 15%. And now we're clear up to 22%. So even with everything that shows there for the next 5 years, we're still maintaining at least that 22% reserves, which is really good for a city to do that. So I think we're pretty proud to be able to do that based on how we've chosen to spend money in the past, and keeping that 22%, I think, helps us, for whatever downfalls may come. We're prepared more than most, I would say, by building that reserve that council has chose to keep at that rate. So I want to focus, that's a big number for us. That's a great number to have up there.
Anything else before we go into questions, or do you?
I still have more.
Fair enough. Do you mind if we have a question from Councilmember Hess?
Sure.
Councilmember Hess, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, speaking of the reserve, how do we go about codifying that? Because, right now you said 22, it used to be 15. And I honestly believe we need to have a good reserve, but we need to make sure that it's codified. So it's something that is put in and is followed. How do we go about doing that?
So when we adopt this ordinance, or when we adopt the budget by ordinance, we're adopting that reserve in the ordinance. But also, as I've talked about, one thing we want to do in 2025 is an official reserve policy, not only for the general fund, but for the utility funds and our ER&R funds. And that's where we can also put that in there. So it's in an adopted policy, adopted by council by resolution. So.
Okay, thank you for answering.
Any other questions so far?
Yeah, you mentioned that public safety had spent the most expenditures. So it wasn't public services. I was under the impression Cody was spending all the money.
Well, Cody is not in the general fund. Thank goodness. So.
It depends on the type of project and funding, what it's from.
Presentation.
So these are the ongoing expenditures that we are proposing in this preliminary budget. So RMSA is our insurance, and that's increasing by 4.1%. We did build in an estimated COLA increase just based on where labor negotiations are going. We put in an estimate for 2025 and 2026. We're estimating employee medical benefits to go up by about 8% in 25 and 26, dental going up 4% in 25 and 26. Those are numbers that we receive from our medical provider. They haven't landed on their final numbers, but that's around where they're going to be. As you all know, the public safety sales tax did pass through Thurston County. And so we are confident that we're going to be receiving about $400,000 per year from that tax. And so we're proposing the addition of 1 police officer in 2025 and 2 in 2026, and their salaries would be covered by that public safety sales tax. We are proposing the addition of 1 project and grant manager, with 50% of their salary would be reimbursed by grants. That is an allowable expenditure for most grant agreements. Every federal grant agreement, you can use some of that grant fund to pay for a salary and benefit. And that position would work both within the general fund and the planning and building, parks and recreation. It'd be like a citywide position. So if there's a grant that the parks want to go after, they would help with that. If there's a grant that, police want to go after. So we are proposing that position in this preliminary budget. We're proposing 1 wastewater treatment plant operator and 1 maintenance worker. That maintenance worker would primarily be in parks.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And then we are proposing funding outside agency request of $50,000 per year, the beautification grant program $25,000 each year, and the art program $8,000 each year.
Is that the art commission?
Yes. Yeah. So those are all per year.
Which is an increase of what, 3,000 per year?
Yeah.
It's debatable.
So those were ongoing expenditures that we would put in the budget and those would carry forward, through the years. So one-time expenditures, we're proposing to use reserves to purchase the one new police officer training and equipment. That's going to be $126,900 in year one. In year one, also, we want to add a module to our Laserfiche. We want to move our financial software to the cloud, and we want to add flock cameras, and the total for those would be $62,750. We would like to transfer 1 million of reserves from the general fund to Fund 302 for future general government buildings and infrastructures. That is one-time money in the general fund that has come from building permitting and from excess revenues that we've received that we want to move out of the general fund and earmark for future growth. And then we'd like to pay off the public safety building 1 year early. We think we'll save about $30,000 in interest, and that will free up some of our debt capacity.
How much do we pay right now currently for that building, for that bond?
It's a little under $400,000 a year.
It's a lot
We
of money
paid
to
off.
free up.
Yeah, and that will free up in the general fund. In 2026, we're going to add 2 police officers, so they need their equipment and their training. And that equipment includes their vehicle and all the upfit to the police vehicle. That'll be $253,980. And then year 2 of flock cameras and the bias cloud would be $35,000. And those are all proposed as one-time expenditures.
So year 2 of flock is more affordable than the first year.
A little bit more affordable.
Stephanie, sorry. The 50,000 on the previous page for outside funding is the total for any of those requests that we had. Is that correct? Go ahead.
An example of outside groups or outside departments, would you call it?
Outside agencies?
Outside agencies. Can you give me an example of what that might be?
So the
Projects that we received, the presentations, all those presentations.
Okay.
yeah, the senior center and Habitat, and I don't remember the other names.
They all submitted applications, requests.
A curiosity on that is it sounds, and I was curious about this during the presentations as well. Curious how we avoid that being gifting of public funds.
So cities are allowed to provide support to nonprofits in the community. So it's not, but you couldn't like gift funds to Walmart, but you can gift funds to a nonprofit if you have a formal process like this. And we can get further research on that to you, if you'd like. Any other questions?
Let's move on.
And the rest of the slides are just snapshots of the major utility funds and the equipment rental funds. The one thing that Todd and I did want to stress with this preliminary budget, there are requests from the departments that we've received that we might not be able to put in the preliminary budget, but as we move into 2025 and the contracts are settled and we have more knowns, we might be able to add some of those items in mid-biennium. Do you have anything to?
Yeah, we obviously had a lot of requests, and you'll see a few more in 2 weeks when the rest of the departments present. You'll see some more requests that come up. There was a lot of position requests. Some are general fund heavy, and some are split up amongst other funds. There's some other unknown factors that we're kind of waiting to see how all that pans out. For example, in the court, there's a case going through the Supreme Court right now on defense funding of defense attorneys to represent clients. If that stays the way it currently is written, that would have a pretty big impact budget-wise for us. So that's going through the process right now. They're trying to appeal it and get it changed. So that's just one example of kind of things we're just waiting on to see how they're going to shake out. Before we decide to put all our money in one place, we need to make sure we have that money available for some of these things that are just unknowns right now. So as that happens, and as that unfolds, we'll be able to hopefully come back and fill some of those positions that we're not currently proposing to fill just because we're waiting on a few factors. So.
So this is the water fund. You know, as far as the utility funds, they're pretty much status quo. I would say the water fund has pretty healthy reserves. There are some capital projects that we're still figuring out that will probably change these numbers a little bit. Right now, we don't have all the capital projects nailed down for the next biennium because it depends on how we end this year, right? Like, what is the status of the projects ongoing right now? Are they going to be done? Or are we going to carry them over? And what kind of grants do we think we're going to get in the next biennium for capital? So we are going to talk about capital, I think, in a couple of weeks. And so, but anyways, back to the water utility fund, pretty healthy reserves in that. The sewer fund, as you know, we're just trying to finish up the big WRF project. And the sewer utility fund has supported that project with some transfers out to that project. And so we'll be working on rebuilding the reserves in the sewer utility fund. The stormwater utility fund still needs some work on it because right now we have it ending as a negative fund balance, but we will work on that. This is the IT fund. This is Jason's fund. He is scheduled to end the biennium at 583,000. And I know he went through some of his projects and all of those. So all of the departments within the city pay into the IT fund, and then the IT fund covers all of our needs. So all of the IT software, all the IT equipment. So it's all run through this fund and we all pay into it. And then we have our equipment rental and repair fund. This is the fund that purchases all of our vehicles, all of our major capital. It has about a 1.2 million ending reserve at the end of the biennium. Part of that is for general government and part of that is for the utility funds. So up next, October 22nd, we'll hopefully have more information on the capital and we'll go over the capital projects with all of you. We'll have more department presentations and we'll have our first of 2 public hearings on the property tax and on the biennial budget. On November 5th at the study session, we will talk about outside agencies more, how we're going to split up that 50,000 between all of the requests that we received. November 12th, if needed, we can have more budget discussions. And then by November 22nd, we'll have the second of the 2 public hearing on the property tax and the biennial budget. The hope is that we pass the budget at that meeting and adopt the property tax. Property tax is due to the county by December 1st, so we will need to finalize at least the property tax that date.
Just to be clear, we are not taking the 1%.
We're not taking the 1%. It is not in the preliminary budget. All right, any questions? I know that's a lot of information. I am more than happy to answer any questions. If you come up with questions or you review the PowerPoint, just shoot me an email or stop by or give me a call. I'm around.
Any questions now? Thank you very much, Stephanie. Appreciate it. Sure.
Point of personal privilege.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, we'll be moving on to old business. There's none scheduled. We'll go on to standing council committee reports, starting with the Public Safety Committee.
go ahead and let somebody else go as I get myself into a quiet spot.
Sure. We'll go to the Public Services Committee, come back. All right. Are we coming back to public safety, Brian?
I guess so. Hang on just a moment. As I
We
said,
can
I
go to
just
the
have to
Finance Committee.
If they've got something, no meeting.
No meeting for the Finance Committee. Buy yourself 5 seconds there.
Okay, here we go. For public safety, the meeting I wasn't able to make it to, so that I'm dependent upon the wonderful note takers that we have of my fellow council members there. They talked about the advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement training. It was good. They're teaching the officers how to be able to tell if somebody's impaired and be able to do keep our roads safe. There was also National Coffee with a Cop, and that was October 2nd. They had some good conversations, and Chat with the Chief is going to be coming up more often. We also talked about the flock cameras. If you remember, those are the cameras that we're going to be putting in strategic locations within the city, so that if there's an APB, we can hopefully be able to help assist with tracking down a vehicle in reference to that APP. The October 16th is when they will be out. It's been a long process. They had 7 interviews. Then there was also Officer Sorensen. He's the newest hire. He started last September, and currently he's in field training program. Court updates. She gave a wonderful report about all that was going on, and they're going to be really working on trying to get their everything in order and digitized. Fire department, we had an update. One of the things that the representative from fire department is bringing up is that we have some streets that are very narrow, and they actually have signs on one side that say "Do not park." The thing is that no tickets can be issued. So there's this concern that if there are people parking on both sides of the street, the fire truck is not able to get through. So that's something that maybe during a study session, we need to do some talking about and see what we can do to alleviate that situation. Thurston County Emergency Management weather briefing, they will be getting that, and he'll bring the information with us the next meeting. And then other than that, did I miss anything, Councilmember Ken Geiser?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify. Thank you for reading my notes, Brian. They're a little bit scratchy. But the chat with the chief is no longer, it's actually the community conversations that will be happening tomorrow. Is that correct?
Two separate things. Chat with the chief is just for the police officers, the chief, but we will be continuing with the community conversations. That is tomorrow evening. This one is.
There's opposition over there.
Chief.
Yeah, there's Chat with the Chief was something that we did a while back. We no longer have that. It's community conversation now.
Is what it said, yes. And that's what I was trying to.
Talk with the Cop, yes. That was a national thing, and that happened the other day.
Gotcha. So just a one-time.
Separate thing, yeah.
But he will be, like you said, at our community conversations, as he has been.
Scratch that, so I.
But that's thank you for the clarification. Yeah.
There's no longer a chat with the chief, like.
Gotcha. You're right.
Unless you want to, chief, yeah, start it back.
Well. All right, moving on. General Government Committee.
Oh.
There's meetings and stuff.
No meeting.
All right, moving on to Mayor, City Administrator, staff reports. Todd.
Just a couple updates. Obviously, as you can see, we've been doing a lot of work on the budget. That continues. Working into clear.gov software has been challenging, but also good. Once we get in there and working around, it's very helpful. Working on the process and closing out the beautification grant applications and finalizing those. I think they're all going to be done by October 15th. Is that right? And then we're working on looking at the boards and commissions and the vacancies that we need to fill with the mayor by the end of the year. We have some vacancies coming up on those. As Brian mentioned, lateral interviews going on with the police department, doing background investigations, public services, as we're into maintenance season and winter prep. And then coming up, I think in the November meeting, you'll have a winter weather update, kind of preparation update given by the chief and our operations manager. So that'll be good. And in the IT world, they are working very hard. It's another ticket that was added just last week on updating the recording software in here. So it make it a little bit easier for staff and hopefully a little bit more reliable on how the recording works and getting that out to folks. So yeah, thank you, IT, getting that done. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Can we get in regards to the beautification grants, like a presentation of the after? Because we always, see what they want to do, but we never get to see, like, it's all done, a completed project. Yeah, it would be nice to have some kind of like presentation, like, hey, this is what they did, the picture and everything.
Yeah, I can put together a PowerPoint with their before and after pictures for
I think that would be neat to see, yeah, so, that's just action going out there. Yeah. I mean, I see most of them anyways, but.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions for Todd? All right, like it was mentioned, community conversations tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. at the community center. Right now, I think Councilmember Hess and Councilmember Kangiser is attending. So hopefully just one other council member in attendance. If you do want to go, let us know so we don't violate any Open Meetings Act. Other than that, have a meeting with Congresswoman Strickland tomorrow, some other regional leaders, and that's about it. We do have executive session after council member reports. Yeah, let's start with council member reports. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I had no meetings, but I attended today's chamber. We had some of our local commissioners giving views on certain criteria, which was great. And I attended a private affair for Andrew Barkus. So it's just great to have great community members that really stand up for our area and fight for us.
Absolutely. Councilmember Palmer.
Regional Housing Council was canceled. EMS, Medic One had its 50th anniversary. So they were started in 1974. Let's see, growth for Thurston County, 21% increase over the next coming years. So by 2045, Thurston County will be 383,000. Increase in calls from 41,000 to 62,000 projected. So they're spooling up more medic units and need applicants.
All right, Councilmember Hess.
Yes, intercity transit was a good meeting. They had their proposed budget, as well as the proposed future plans. And so it's looking really good for them. They are getting ready to add some more services to some other bus routes. They're also, if you remember the Capitol Dash or the Olympia Dash, they're developing a route that just sticks around the Capitol buildings and will be available to help with that whole area to kind of alleviate some of the parking issues and traffic in that area. Other than that, it's been a really good, successful year for them. And they are, at the next meeting, I will hopefully have the numbers that were asked in reference to the revenue that's collected from Yelm and the costs and things like that that were asked earlier. Any questions?
Thank you, Councilmember Hess. Councilmember Kangiser.
Yes, I attended the Southeast Thurston Fire Authority meeting via Zoom on September 11th, where the Yelm roundabouts were discussed, much budgeting and acknowledgement of the fire truck repairs needed and discussed. Also talks of future fire trucks, kind of what they look like, how to budget that, and interesting conversations. I attended a Rotary meeting where the speaker spoke about funds of Rotary International and how the donations trickle back down into smaller community clubs like ours. And so taking that on kind of a larger scale and realizing what some of our nonprofits do for our community on a large level and then even smaller. I attended the first Yelm Dollars for Scholars meeting of the school year. With many challenges due to the levy failure, Dollars for Scholars is moving forward with traditional events like the Crossroads Pumpkin Patch and the Taste of the Prairie to continue funding scholarships for our kids. I also attended the Chamber Forum. I actually got to represent both the chamber and our city, and was able to host both Thurston County Commissioners, J.W. Foster and Rachel Dreon, and then also State House Representatives for District 2, Position 2, Matt Marshall and John Snazza. That was really great. And then I am also busy attending classes through the AWC. I attended one of 3 classes that they have spanned out for the next 3 months. So always learning.
Good on you. Councilman Crossman.
Just 2 requests of public services to put in the thing from people. Number 1 is rainy season coming, and this is a big one, is getting rid of the downtown lake on the, you know what I'm talking about? A lot of people know. But a trailhead there, getting that fixed would be very nice. And then also something that's popped up recently that was unforeseen is our beautiful parking lot that we put in. It's more difficult for pedestrians to go from their car to go that way than it is to go this way, because one, there's that large, extremely oversized moat that everyone's calling a moat. And then on the other side is a very large curb to get over. So there's not like easy pedestrians to walk over to get down to go that way for businesses. You know, this way it's easy to come down the park. So, you know, something if we can start looking at maybe some solutions for that. So people can have easier time. Maybe that's one reason no one parks there. I don't know. It's a great parking spot. No one parks there. So I use it all the time because
Can we get a sign or something there that people know they can park? They're parking on the grass.
I don't know. It works for me. Nobody's there.
Yeah, well, we can go with this. Councilor Richardson.
I'm going to report.
All right, Councilor Wood.
Attended the TCOM meeting, presented the 2025 budget to the rest of the board, and approved it. And I've got transportation tomorrow. Looking forward to that one. Got a lot of questions for those fellows, and some good conversation with Mark and Andy.
All right. We do have an executive session scheduled, and we will be going in there shortly. But before, for the audience that's here, we will be going for about 20 minutes or so. The only thing that we have to do after that is adjourn, so there won't be anything additional. So thank you for attending, and appreciate it. So
Please don't forget
we'll
me.
be moving it. Oh my gosh, did I skip over Councilor Hess? My bad. Councilor Hess, please. What's your report?
No. Please do not forget me for the executive session.
Oh, don't forget about you. Oh.
I'm on the phone call.
We'll be sure to put you on the phone call. Thought I skipped you. My apologies. Yeah. All right. So we will go into executive session, starting at 7:56. We'll get out of there. 20 minutes, right? 8:06? Oh, 8:16, excuse me. 8:06, man. 8:16, I knew better at math. Other than that, thank you very much. 8:06. Let's call the regular meeting back to order. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second by Crawford, King, Iser. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.